All right, Semi, HubSpot specialist. What does that even mean?
Honestly, I try to still figure it out on a day-to-day basis. But essentially, what we do is deal with HubSpot on every day, basically. We're in HubSpot every day.
In this episode, we're excited to share with our listeners some of our more recent stories, if you will, or challenges that we've come across with some of our HubSpot clients. I've got at least one in mind. I know you've got a couple, Semi. But I guess just in short, a HubSpot specialist at Red Pandas Digital. Obviously, we're a HubSpot partner. You and I spend probably a good 90% of our day, maybe if not 100% of our day, inside of HubSpot and solving challenges for our clients. Yeah. More or less, there's a lot of repetition, and we're solving similar problems over and over again. Every now and then, we are stumped with some gotchas and whoa, haven't come across this before. But I guess that's what you could call us as HubSpot specialists. We're not developers, we're not coders, we're not designers, or even content creators, if you will. We specialize in HubSpot, the tool, and pushing it to its boundaries and parameters that we can physically take it to. And then we've got additional specialists like developers or coders or designers when we can't go any further.
Yeah, it's like the day-to-day sneak peek of what we do. So it's like if you are inspiring to be a HubSpot specialist or consultant or any of them, this is the episode for you. If you want to get to know on actually what we do as a Red Pandas, consultant, this is an episode for you. So either of those options, stay along and keep watching. My name is Semi. I'm joined with my fellow colleague, Tasha. Without wasting more time, Tasha, what have you been working on the last 2 weeks?
Wow, that is a loaded question because there's a lot. But what has been coming up over and over and over again, and I mean, this is a hot topic all the time for anyone that's ever used HubSpot, is reporting. And reporting on the efficiencies or the lack of efficiencies, reporting on the ROI of HubSpot in itself. A lot of businesses will say to me, we're spending all this money on HubSpot, we need to show that it's worth its money. Most commonly in the last 2 weeks specifically has been reporting. And then if I'm drilling a little bit further down, it's custom reporting to show the ROI on either marketing or sales efforts and how that's actually, quote unquote, moving the needle when it comes to the money that we're putting into a system. So that's been big. I mean, we just sold a project it's a quote unquote optimization project, but it's literally, they just want a lot of custom reporting, purely reporting.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And so what type of thinking and what type of process do you need to kind of go through in order to build something like that within HubSpot? Because that's an interesting thing,
Yeah, well, it always starts with, what are you trying to achieve, right?
Sure.
You ask me that all the time.
Yeah, sure.
What are you trying to achieve?
What's the outcome here? What are we doing, right?
Exactly. So I actually, if a client comes to me and says, I want some reports built, it's okay, cool, we can do that. What do you want to see? What are the numbers you're looking for? How do you want it broken down? And I mean, we've got thousands of questions we can ask to really get to the core of what it is that they're trying to actually report on. But if we don't know the portal, or if it's a fairly older portal, I mean, if you haven't listened to some of our previous episodes, there is an episode on what an optimization looks like. There's a good chance we need to do some optimizing before we can actually get some decent reports out of your system. Because if your lead sources aren't configured, your lifecycle stages aren't configured, if your data's a mess, we say this a lot, garbage in, garbage out, you're not going to get a good report. So it generally starts with, what are we trying to see, what are we trying to achieve, before we can go down the path of, okay, well, how's your data handled right now? Is it good enough for us to go in and build some reports? Or do we need to do some kind of hygiene and just basic maintenance before we can actually start building anything? It's typically where it starts.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had a similar situation. I think the last week we're talking about it with the team is the client actually didn't have any suggestions on what they would report on. So they're like, I don't know. Yep. I've never had a CJM before. I've never had a good CRM before, so I don't know what to report on. And so and then in that instance, it was what are the KPIs? So you're trying to build. We've got sample reports that we'll typically use and on a regular basis that would give you 80%, but the last 20% is more directed questions towards the business's outcomes, right? Most of the time, I find myself trying to figure out, what would be the parameters that we need to set up within HubSpot to get the report that you would need. Is that what you resonate with as well?
Yeah, I mean, they don't know what they don't know, and they will come to us as the HubSpot specialists and experts, and say, "You tell me what I need to see in HubSpot." So we have a series of different types of dashboards and reports that we use for existing, new, old, whatever clients. Like when they come to us, these are the reports we kind of must have and must do. But then it gets to a point where it's like the client, and this could be outside of a project. So a project typically comes with 2 dashboards and a set of reports on it. If you don't know HubSpot reports, it works in dashboards. So think of like the dashboard having 10 different little report modules or widgets, whatever they're called these days. And then there's a whole bunch of out-of-the-box reports that you can use. And then I really like those because you can actually customize them now and turn them into custom reports. So that's kind of where we start. Depending on your subscription level as well, you might get more or less access to certain types of customizations. Generally, the Pro suite, so Sales and Marketing Pro at a minimum, will give us enough of what we need. And then it's from those custom ones, from those default ones that we can turn them into custom. But we can't just out of the box know what the client wants to report on. Sometimes we have clients that come to us and like, yep, this is the list of reports I want to see. Sometimes clients come and say, I just want to see the source of my leads. And that's literally all they're going to say. And I'm like, okay, well, you need to see more than that because you're not going to pay for all this software and not get some decent reporting. So then it's up to us to actually educate them on not only how to use the tool, but the type of reports they should be looking at. So, I mean, we end up being way more than just HubSpot specialists and quote unquote consultants. Like we're becoming business and like leadership, revenue specialists and consultants because we're like, hey, client, who could be a CEO, a managing director, a CTO, a CFO, whatever, like a senior leader in a business. And we're saying, you've just put in thousands of dollars for this software and this onboarding and implementation, and you're coming to me and asking for your source of leads. You're going to be pissed off in 3 months if you can't see what deals are closing, how much money your sales team are making, what marketing emails are generating you actually sales qualified leads. Like you're going to be pissed off and you're going to come back to me and say, why is this software not doing the thing that I want it to do? So yes, client says they want source of leads. Great, I can give you that, but then you also need to pay attention to these reports because they're going to show you the actual impact HubSpot has made on your business.
Yeah. Just on top of the head, on top of your mind, that's might just come up right now. Like, is there any reports that you think that are super interesting, or you might have done that's pops up that like not on a regular, but not the standard ones. It's stuff that might be like very specific. So like that might be like, oh wow, I didn't know HubSpot would report on that stuff. What would they be? Anything that comes up
top of mind, and I mean maybe there's a default one in HubSpot now that I haven't seen or I haven't stumbled on it, but one that I'll create for almost every new portal is kind of like my hack job to a forecast report. So if you're looking at your sales pipeline, I'll create by close date, month down the bottom, count of deals that it's measured by, and then I put the value in. So if your sales team are using the system properly and they're putting in estimated close dates and estimated values of deals, you very easily can pull up a custom report that breaks down by month how much money you're expecting to close in those months coming up. It's so simple, but every time I've created it and shared it with a client, they're like, oh, this is actually really valuable. Now there's intricacies and there's issues with that one because someone might be like, oh, well, it's an expected close date. We don't report off of close date. We report off settlement date. You know, if you're in the home space, that's fine. You can customize that stuff. But for the most part, anything that's going to have dates, values, and like future projections, I've found are super valuable for the sales departments. Yeah. And then further into sales, what's been really, really prominent lately has been sales activity reporting, specifically meetings and calls, types, and outcomes. So I've got more of my mature HubSpot users, if you will, that are really drilling down into their sales team's activities. And they're like, Tash, we want to see service team by sales team, how many meetings they're having by month, the type of those meetings, how many meetings are actually progressing through to, you know, they've showed up and they've had a good call or they're not showing up at all. So these are the types of reports I've been heavily working on like this last 2 weeks is like activity type of meetings broken down by teams, times, periods and types and outcomes. That's on a minimum pro level, though. You can't do that on a starter level.
Yeah, that's a good one. I had a client who asked me, can you build MSI reports? And I was like, what's MSI? And they had turn the meeting types into meaningful sales interactions. That's what they called it. So, so it was like three or four different meeting types that would consider as critical. So if the team hadn't reported on that, that was not didn't do anything, right? So it was just like a little hacks. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So it's like trying to figure out these problems. I think it's for the reporting side of stuff is it's definitely something that provides value within HubSpot.
Yeah, it's exciting. And like I said, we just closed a project which is pretty much like 80% custom built reports. They've had a really nice HubSpot implementation on an onboarding, and they're just coming out of that phase. And this particular client wants to advance their HubSpot reporting maturity, if you will. So they've engaged us on quite a juicy project on purely reporting.
Yeah.
So I mean, watch this space, because the stuff that we're doing with them now is exciting, but I know that in about 2 months' time, we're going to be doing things that, some people have never even seen in the HubSpot reporting space. So I'm excited for that. I can report back in a couple of months' time. Yeah, keep you posted. But that's me, Semi. What about yourself? I mean, I heard you say you've just delivered 5 customer journey maps over the last 2 weeks. That's a lot of customer journey maps to build, strategize, and deliver. So why don't you talk to me a little bit about those?
Yeah, it's so interesting. It was like, to come up. So for those that don't know what a customer journey map or HubSpot specific customer journey, I just renamed them to like HubSpot customer journey map, because like if you search customer journey map, you'll find a whole range of ones. But essentially what it is like the architecture of HubSpot and how the business problems that a business might have, how does that translate into into automation, steps, workflows, tags? What would that look like within HubSpot to then help improve or solve their business problems? So that's what a customer. But not to be
confused with like a tech stack or a RevOps type of mind map. It's not. It's not shitting on tech stacks or RevOps things, but a customer journey map, the way we do them, is very strategic. Yeah. It's very much like, who are the people you're talking to? What stages do they go through? How do we move them through the funnel, the entire funnel, not just the sales funnel, but like the lead through to marketing, through to sales, through to service? What automations do we use to help keep them warm or move them along? And then how do we remove clog? I think that's probably the biggest thing that I talk to clients about with the CJMs is like, what's this future nurture bucket that just keeps growing and no one's ever doing anything with it? Let's do some automations and lead scoring to try and actually make an impact with the data here. So not to understate what these CJMs mean, this is like every single client of ours gets one of these when they work with us. Even if their current system is pretty good, we still do it because it ends up being a really strategic guiding North Star, if you will, for us to know what tools in HubSpot we are setting up to help you move your contacts through that those stages.
Absolutely. Just to add to that, like, I've been with Red Pandas for like maybe a year and a bit now. And, when I first started here, it was like a customer journey map was just a bit of a foreign thing. And then the more I started using, the more I realized the value of that is within it. So just to give you a little perspective around that, in order to develop one, you got to first figure out the pains, and then you got to then get that and try to attract it towards something, right? So, in the 5 CJMs that I delivered this week were from different industries. So I just give you high level industries like coaching and certificate business. We had a lawyer business, we had an education business, manufacturing and construction. So they had various different like information or like various different activities and stuff that we typically do, right? One of them actually took me 6 hours to develop, and it was 1 hour meeting, right? And it was just like so many intricacies and details around how things would move through different things. And that's just the actually building the CJM part, but the work component takes like at least a month and a bit to be able to figure out properly, right? So I wrote this down before I call, is like common issues that have arisen that we solved with HubSpot. So some of the things that you can solve with HubSpot, I thought that would be interesting to share with people, is like difficulty relocating leads and lacking visibility on whether they are being actively worked on within the system they're working in, right? So
it's a good one.
What does that translate to is like the lack of, when a client says visibility, right? For me, I'd love to get your opinion on this one, but for me, it basically means that there's no activities being logged in a streamlined way, right? So check the integrations, make sure they're connected to it, and if are they going to the right place? So like you can have a lot of
Yeah.
activity, but in your customer, contact list, there's no way you're going to know that until you go pinpoint those activities out and put it into the right place for you to be able to see it, right? So that's one problem that's come up. The difference between lead object, and deals, like that gets confused a lot. That we always have to define what that would look like.
Yeah.
Oh man, this one blows my mind. Trying to get understanding of what life cycle stages are, it's still a new concept for new businesses and what that means. Like the hierarchy of breakdowns and like time stamping of different things and the way that it goes backwards, and it just when you explain to a client what that looks like, they're like, hey Semi, this is so good. I was able, like, what I understand now, it would it gives you that confidence and understanding on how things are moving through your business on a strategic level, and it gives you that guideline to go through it. So super useful. So that was for like leads. I want to share a couple sales stuff. Process of moving opportunities through different sales stages, like, on their current systems, they've got so many different stages, and trying to clean them up and what that would look like. So it's like, hey, all over the place. That's one of those ones. What else is there? Lack of automation and follow-ups. Dude, I get this a lot, right? Like, it's like, hey, a team is not following up the prospects and the things that are quickly. So there's usage of sequences and a whole range of logic around that definitely works well. And then I think there's a misconception between like B2B and B2C activities and stuff, and you have to separate those as certain instances. Sure, you might have to, but there's always based on stages versus activities, milestones versus activities, and defining what they would typically look like. So yeah, I can go on and talk about this all day, every day. You probably can see, right? So yeah, those are the things that I've been kind of working on. Anything you want to add? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I mean, a customer journey map, like I said, is quite strategic. So when we take it to a client, more or less the feedback is very well received. Like, as in when they get it, they're quite impressed, I would say, not to, blow smoke, but like they're quite impressed with what we've been able to do based off of a kickoff call with the client. And then to take them through, okay, hey client, this doesn't have to be linear, but if a contact enters your system, these are the stages that they walk through. And then, the customer journey map we create, it's nothing overly crazy. It's in Miro for a very small subscription fee. And we tag, life cycle, lead, deal stage. We give each stage an objective. We put the automations and manual steps that we recommend under each stage. We've started tagging in the type of reporting we want to see. And then we typically say, hey, client, you go through it, give us your feedback and approval. Then we go off and build. And the things that I probably find mostly in those sessions when I share them with teams are they don't realize that I'm going to automatically move their deals to lost after a certain period of time if there's no activity. And then they'll freak out. All the salespeople are like, oh, what do you mean? You can't move. And I'm like, yeah, I'll notify you. I'll give you plenty of warning. But if there's a deal sitting in your pipeline and it's been there for more than... Every business is different. This is generally where I get a lot of feedback is like 14 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever the days are, I don't care. But it's going to be moved to lost, and I'm going to automatically tag it as inactivity, lost reason. And then the report that goes to your senior leadership is going to say, this many deals has been lost this month because of these reasons. And if it says inactivity, it clearly means that there was no activity on that deal. And activity means by the sales rep, not engagement, not from the other side, but from the rep. So that's typical. Those are probably the biggest things I get. I get a lot of what if there's other lost reasons? A lot of pushback on people not wanting to have, they want that future nurture or deal on hold stage. And I push hard on not having that stage. I'm like, no, you don't need that stage. If they're not buying in the next 6 to 12 months, depending on the cycle of, your sales process, get it out of your pipeline.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be in there. But that's generally the feedback, to be honest with you. They love it.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Just on that last point, I slightly started changing the way I think about deal stages a little bit, which was, or deal activities. So every time it needs to have an X activity. The moment it stops having an X activity is deal's dead. irrespective of
Exactly.
like the reason why.
And when you say next activity, you mean like a scheduled activity? So like
yeah,
a
scheduled
task, a
activity,
scheduled
like
meeting.
something that's
Yep.
happened. Like, are you going to meet with this
Yep.
person? What's the next catch up, or what's happened? If you leave it for too long, for about a month. So I had this question for one of the manufacturing businesses. Like, hey, it takes us like 3 to 4 months to kind of get the deal, figure out who won the tender, and figure out a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, but you can still call and see how the person
Yeah.
is going.
Yeah.
You're still
100%.
dealing with people, and then they're going to be like, "Hey, man, thanks for following up. I really appreciate it." But maybe you might not call them up for like a month, and the next minute you call up and they're like, "Hey, I wasn't thinking about you, but the fact that you spoke to me right now
Yeah.
means that let's just do business because I'm in a rush at the moment." You know what I mean? So you want to make sure
Yeah.
that those little things are taken care of without the need for thinking about it. It just takes up bandwidth.
That's it.
Right?
That's it. And with the right automations, you can do that. So I think, now we didn't really talk about this before the call, but I'd be very happy to do the featured feature on our next step or snapshot or next activity deal property that we do.
Dude.
And then the awesome workflow that you created for our portal that I now use on all of my clients, which automatically updates a note when it's been saved. So if you're cool with that, I think that should be today's featured feature because it's a really nice win. If you're not doing it, you should do it. It's very easy to do. And it helps with it complements what we do with CJMs a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know what? It's funny because I was thinking about what would be the feature of this, and this is an amazing giveaway, especially if you have Marketing Pro or Enterprise version where you have automations in addition to like a follow-up of some sort or up to the update that you need to do on a regular basis. This is the perfect featured feature for you. Love that. That's a good one.
That's it. So I reckon what we'll do is you and I will wrap it up here. We'll roll it into the featured feature and Bob's your uncle.
That's it. Sounds good.
All right, Sammy. Well, with that said,
I think it was a different session today, a little bit on insight on how we do. We are very passionate about it. So you might seem like some thinking behind these ones or going through. Honestly, if you do have any questions, feel free to like message us. I'm more than happy to assist where I can and give my 2 cents towards making your life a little bit easier if you do use HubSpot. So
100%. Love it. Well, with that said, let's jump into the featured feature. Until next time, Semi.
Take care. See you guys.
Hey there, Tasha here from Red Pandas, and in this featured feature, I'm going to walk you through adding a next step deal property to your deal card, as well as making sure that it is prompted for your reps to complete every time a deal moves through each stage, and how to make sure that every time it's updated, that a workflow is triggering to capture that information and add it onto the deal record as a new note. That way there, at any point in any time, anyone can look at the pipeline and easily see what the next step needs to be on that deal. And when we go into the deal, we can see a running record of the notes, how that next step has progressed through the sale. So first things first, we want to add next step into this deal card here. So navigate through to your pipeline, and then you can click settings up the top here, and then you're going to click pipelines. Making sure you're on the right pipeline. So we're going to my test one. We'll click customize board and view, and then scroll down and add next step in. You can see I've already put it in here. So there it is. Once that's done, make sure you save your changes. And then if we go back to the deal, that will show up when we have a next step known. So let's jump into that deal now and go ahead and put a next step in. So let's find the next step field that we want to populate. Okay, so once that is populated, make sure we save. Let's go back again, and then we're going to go back into our deal pipeline view, and we can see the next step is in there, nice and easy. So now we've added it in, and we've made sure that it's in the deal view. The next thing we want to do is ensure that it's being asked at every single stage. So what we're going to do now is go back to pipelines and the settings, go back to the right pipeline, and then at conditional stage properties, you're going to add it at every single stage, except for close lost, I would recommend. So we're going to click into edit properties. We're going to click add property, and then we're going to search for our next step. And we're going to make it required. So we're going to do that along the whole pipeline. Once that's done, we can be confident in that every single time a deal moves through to the next stage, we are actually prompting our reps to complete what the next step needs to be. So every time they've moved it, we can get an update on what needs to happen next for that particular deal. Now I'm just going to leave it at this one here for our demo, but you get the gist. Go ahead and add all of those in at every single one of your stages. Make sure you save every single time. Once it's added in, what you're going to do is head over to workflows. And now we're going to create the workflow, which is going to turn that next step into a note on that deal. So we're going to click create a workflow from scratch. And we're going to skip and choose eligible records. We're looking for a deal-based workflow, save and continue. Then we're going to click back into the enrollment trigger, and we're going to say when a filter criteria is met, the deal property that we're looking for is next step. And then we're going to say if next step is updated in the last day. There's probably other ways that you can meet this filter criteria as well. This one will do just the trick. Then we're going to go ahead and we want to create a note. So we're going to look for create a note under the CRM options. And then in that note, what we're going to do is move my Loom video and then add in here the enrolled deal next step. And that's going to put that line of information that you wrote when you moved the deal over. It's going to paste it into here. Then we're going to click save. We're going to give the workflow a name. If you know any of my, if you've ever worked with me, you know that I'm anal about workflow names. So this one is a system, and we're adding a note, adding a note to deal when next step is updated. And then we're going to click save. We're going to review and publish. Yeah, we can enroll workflows that meet the enrollment criteria. We want to allow for re-enrollment actually, so let's make sure re-enrollment is turned on because the deal will re-enroll in this when the next step is updated. So always good to check your settings. We don't mind when it happens. There's no connections, no further workflow details. Let's just flick through all of these and then turn it on. And there you have it. So now I've just walked you through adding next step into a deal card, making sure that it's getting updated when deals move through the pipeline. And when it gets updated, a workflow to grab that next step and add it onto the associated deal as a new note. So then what happens is as we go, as a deal goes through the pipeline, we will start to see a running record of notes of what those next steps were.